Welcome to the name game. Workout number 73 is these boots were made for walking. For time with a 10-minute cap, we have 20 thrusters, 30 pull-ups, 20 front rack walking lunges, 20 chest to bars, 20 overhead squats, 10 bar muscle ups. The barbell weight is 135 pounds for males and 95 pounds for females. Let's get into standards. For the thruster, your hip crease has to pass below the top of your knee and you have to lock out in line with your body. So from like side profile view. For the pull-ups, it is a chin over bar pull-up. For the front rack walking lunges, again, it is not a standardized length, it's a standardized number of reps. So you can't do any shuffle steps or anything weird. They have to be full, complete steps, but you can sort of wedding walk or step all the way through. Do like the swing step is what I call it. Either of those is fine, as long as you're taking 20 complete steps. If you prefer, you can do them in one long straight shot, or you can do that where you turn around after 10, for example. So it's up to you in that instance. The chest to bar. Chest is defined as anything below your collarbones and above your floating ribs. Obviously, you have to come to a dead hang at the bottom of each rep. The overhead squats, just like the thruster, hip crease below the knee. And obviously you're not going from a rack. And the bar muscle up, you're going from dead hang over top of the bar, and it's got to be a bar muscle up. It can't be a roll through or anything like that. And it has to be where you pass through some portion of the dip in that movement. Let's loop in Coach Chris and talk about strategy.
First impressions, classic CrossFit, lower body push, upper body pull. And at first glance, I would assume the feeling and the stimulus of this workout will be similar, not exactly the same, obviously, but similar to the open workout this past year, which, if I remember correctly, was thrusters at an ascending weight to 135. And then it was pull-ups, chest to bars, bar muscle ups. When I look at this workout, my thought process, again, based on the level of athlete that you are, would be to probably break up the thrusters unless you're like a semifinal or games level athlete, right?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's a good recommendation. If you are a semifinal hopeful or you've been to a semifinal, then you could probably attack this workout largely unbroken. For everybody else, I would suggest breaking them.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And probably even into 3 to 4 sets.
Yeah.
Because that thruster weight, I would say for the general population, is a heavy thruster. And then again, right, we mentioned it being lower body push, upper body pull. So it's not like, okay, it's 20 heavy thrusters on the front end, but that's all the squatting I'm going to be doing in the workout. It's like, or pressing even, right? Like You have overhead squats at the end. So you're going to be taxing very similar movement patterns across the board. And so it's like breaking it up early and often is going to make sense.
Yeah. And even for the people who, whether you're good at bar muscle ups or not, like if you've done thrusters, you've held a bar in a front rack, you've done some overhead squats and you just hold that static position, like your shoulders and triceps get really tired just from holding that bar in an overhead squat for that long. Especially if you try to hold on to that because you are pretty good at muscle ups. When you get to the bar muscle ups, that your triceps, I mean, it's all been pulling. So obviously your pulling fatigue, but also that the turnover and the press out of the muscle up will be taxed a lot too by the time you get there.
Yeah, I mean, your overall shoulder, your shoulder capsule just should be really tired by the time you get to those bar muscle ups. And then from a gymnastic standpoint, we were talking about before we hopped on, the recommendation would probably be to kind of reverse engineer it. So what we meant by that was, look at the set of 10 bar muscle ups. If you look at 10 bar muscle ups at the end of a really tough workout and you're like, man, that's going to be really tough. Like, that's kind of a lot of reps for me. You're going to want to break up those pull-ups on the front end, right? Because, going unbroken or pushing for a gigantic chunk set, like, you're probably not going to have much of a chance to get those bar muscle-ups in, right? But, if you're someone who has 20 plus unbroken, you look at 10, you're like, that's going to be tough at the end, but I could push to get a really big chunk, or even do them unbroken, right? There's no point in even breaking up the pull-ups. And then, from a scaling perspective, Ben, I don't know if you want to touch on that, kind of what scaling might look like, especially because, we want everyone to get the best out of this workout.
Yeah, we were talking about this and we're like, realistically, regardless of how someone, like if you are proficient or not at bar muscle ups, the goal should be to get there. And if you're not going to get to the bar muscles with enough time to make a few solid attempts or get a few quality reps in, I would say scale it back a little bit. Just scale the weights back a little. The other way that you could maybe look at that is if you're going to take more than, like if you're going to have to be reduced to less than 5s on the thrusters, then again, you should probably break it up because you're just going to be, the weight shouldn't be the limiter. Like it should feel like a 135, 95 pound bar for even a pretty strong athlete. It still feels like a heavy thruster, even though like relative to maybe a clean and jerk, it's not super heavy, but that tax adds up really quickly. So yeah, looking at the bar muscle up, make sure that you're going to have time to actually make a few solid attempts. So maybe look at that workout. Do you think maybe through the overhead squats, can I get to there around the 8-minute mark? If that's just not going to happen, then probably pull back a little bit on the loading in the workout.
And even so, right, I think it's all relative. So if you're someone who's not good at bar muscle ups or you're still developing the skill, I think that's a great guideline. If you're someone who maybe is not as strong of an athlete, but you're good at the gymnastics and it's like, okay, I could get to the bar muscle ups at 9 minutes or even 9.5 minutes, but I know I could hang on to the bar for that entire minute or entire 30 seconds to close out the workout if I had to, then it's like, keep the weights the same, right? It really is kind of looking at them in conjunction, right? If you're like, okay, I'm going to need 2 minutes to maybe get 4 or 5 bar muscle ups, then it's like, yeah, you're probably going to want to scale the weights to make sure you get to the point where you can at least take the necessary cracks at those bar muscle ups.
And again, maybe the last thing that I'm thinking that I might add is like, again, think about what 22.3 felt like at the end of that workout, like, yes, like my shoulder girdle and like my legs were blown up and my triceps, but like, it was just like systemic work rate.
Yeah.
It was just like the whole body just like wanted to shut down at that point. So yeah, again, this isn't like it's 20 thrusters into a 1K row where you can kind of like, sit back and cruise a little bit and like get yourself feeling better before you go into another high work bout. It's like, it's one high turnover, high power movement into the next. So you kind of have to pace it with that in mind, thinking about it more like, okay, it's 20, 20 and 20 of like a lower body movement, right? So it's really like 60 reps with like a 135, 95 pound bar.
Right.
And thinking about it in that way rather than segmented. Like I do this for myself sometimes. Like it's easy to be like, well, I look at this part of the workout. Oh, I could do this in this amount of time. Oh, I could do this in this amount of time. You don't realize like the accumulative fatigue of interference and just like the total workload weighing on you.
Right.
Any other last concluding thoughts here?
No, I think that sounds good. Get ready to kind of get after it and hurt on that one.
And lastly, we encourage as many people as possible to jump in with you and do these workouts. You've got people who want to throw down with you. By all means, encourage them to do that. However, we want everyone to submit their scores, right? So where you're going to go to is zorfitness.com. You'll hit on menu, drop down from the protocol. You'll hit that tab called Name Game. And then you'll go down to the first workout, which should be the newest one. And you're going to click that little green arrow. There you'll be able to enter your name also with the workout name. That's important because it tags it so it doesn't get lost in the forum later on. But then you obviously are going to put your score or your time, and then you'll submit it. If you click on that little number next to it, you're going to see all the other comments, right? You might actually not be able to view them all. So if you hit view all comments, that's going to take you down sort of a leaderboard where you get to compare scores. And then also your coach gets to help determine where you stack up versus other competitors to be able to determine your individual weaknesses. It's going to be super helpful for us, pretty exciting and engaging for you guys. And if you're someone who's watching this, you're not a Zor Fitness athlete yet, I'll link to it below, but you can either check out the protocol or one-on-one coaching and we'll reach out, see if you're a good fit. And for everyone, best of luck on the workout.